Alright people, this is Big Brexit Dave coming to you from a very different video of the Degenerates podcast today. Obviously you can tell by the title that there will be no podcast episode this week due to a number of reasons. The main one being that Dan has strep throat, so he can't speak or record any of it, and the fact that Clive is somewhere off the South China Sea hunting zombies for money. But what I'm here today to talk about is the upcoming big fight between Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz. Now, this is obviously a rematch of the fight that happened 18 months ago. Wilder comes into the fight a massive favourite, 1-6 favourite on most bookies, with 2-7 being a favourite for his KO. Ortiz coming in a massive 5-1, with a KO favoured at 7-1. Now, the first time round, it was a TKO for Deontay Wilder in the 10th round. Ortiz had troubled him for most of the fight. However, Wilder was actually leading 85-84 on all the scorecards before that stoppage. But what is evident from that first fight is that has been the only time that I've seen Deontay Wilder incredibly rocks. It was somewhere in the 7th round that Ortiz definitely could have finished that fight. He was probably 1 or 2 power punches away from knocking out Deontay Wilder, but Wilder used that grit and that determination to survive through the rounds and later to KO the Cuban heavyweight. Now, I've looked at this solidly for the past week, and I've also taken into account other analysts like myself, but this is leaning to one of two ways for me. The first way that I can see it going is an early knockout for Deontay Wilder. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, before we go into how each fighter fights, we have to look at the styles themselves. Ortiz is a southpaw, and southpaws are very famous for being open to the right hand. And if you pay any attention to boxing, you'll know that Wilder has a horrifically naughty right hand. That thing is like a punch from the Greek gods. You only need to see evidence of that for that fight against Brazil, where he absolutely flatlined Brazil in the first round, which is going to be a massive danger for Ortiz, and it's something he's going to be very, very wary of, obviously. And the second thing I would point out to an early KO is the fact that Ortiz is 41. And there'll be questions on whether mentally he can stay as good as he possibly can for, 8, 9, 10, 11 rounds, maybe a 12-round fight. Can he stay there? Can he avoid those power punches from Wilder for that long, whilst also landing some of his own? It's going to be a serious debate on that. But the main part, the big part of why I think this could be an early KO is the fact that we've seen rematches like this before. We've seen it where, one fighter is given their absolute all, has really, really tried, has put their heart and soul on the line, boxed as well as they possibly can, and they've either, won it on a split decision or they've lost it in a late round. We've seen before with these rematches that they tend to favour the younger fighter massively. Now, obviously, as I've already mentioned, Ortiz is 41 and Wilder is 34. That's a 7-year difference, could be huge. Is Ortiz mentally still there? Is he still mentally strong enough? He's still mentally fit enough to, parry those barrages from Deontay Wilder? Is he able to fend off Wilder for as long as it takes for him to land one of those power punches? And personally, I don't think that's the case, which I'll go into a bit later. But now I'm going to talk about the dangers for Wilder, because this isn't a very one-sided fight as everyone's suggesting it to be. We know for a fact that Ortiz is a better technical boxer than Wilder. He outshone him in that first fight for a good 9 rounds. Well, I say 9 rounds, but obviously he was leading on the scorecards. But it's clear to see that Ortiz is a better technical boxer than Wilder. Wilder has a million different flaws. He doesn't use his height effectively enough. He's off balanced a lot. His shots are wild. He can't really fight backwards. There's a lot of things to exploit with Deontay Wilder. I think he'll be very cautious of that. He'll be very cautious of the fact that Ortiz knows he's a better technical boxer, and he'll try and implement his fight plan to kind of avoid that situation. Whether if it does go to a decision, that he might not win, even though he might be a better fighter, he's not the better technical boxer. But secondly, Ortiz rocked him. Ortiz has come the closest to any professional fighter to knocking out Deontay Wilder. That is a fact you cannot ignore, and that's a fact that Wilder certainly should not overlook. He should see the dangers that comes with Ortiz. I mean, Ortiz is no journeyman. The only loss of Ortiz's career has been to Deontay Wilder in that first fight. Ortiz is a serious fighter. He's a serious danger man. And he's a heavyweight. He's been a heavyweight for a long time. He has flatlined people before. He's knocked people out before. There is no reason to suggest that he cannot knock out Deontay Wilder. This is a big boy class. Some of these power punches coming in will kill people. If one of them lands, it doesn't matter from which fighter, there's a very real chance that it could be over within the next 4 seconds. And Wilder cannot overlook the fact that Ortiz is a very good fighter and one of those punches could be coming. Another big reason is the fact that Ortiz is a great counter puncher. Sometimes you'll see that if Wilder lands one of those power punches, he likes to go for it straight away. He likes to, he'll get inside the pocket and he'll start throwing those massive shots from all different angles. And for 99% of the fighters that fight Wilder, that can be extremely intimidating, and they'll curl up into a ball and the fight will be over in 15 seconds. However, I reckon Ortiz is willing enough to take that barrage and to throw his own power punches. And if one of them connects, Wilder could go down. We've seen evidence of this countless times. We've seen evidence of it this year in the heavyweight division. Not too long ago, was it 5-6 months ago? Joshua had Ruiz on the ropes and he went into the pocket and he went in for the kill and he got caught with one on the top of the head and he lost his 4 world title belts. Is Wilder going to be able to pick his moments properly? Is he going to be composed enough to know when to go for it and when not to go for it? And will he be able to take those power shots from Ortiz? I don't know whether he will. Another thing that I think Wilder might actually overlook is the fact that his career is on the precipice of being astronomical. Yes, he's one of the top 4 heavyweights in the world. I'd argue he's one of the top 3 heavyweights in the world. But he's not really captured the hearts of millions of people. Not like Tyson Fury has, not like Anthony Joshua has. Many people see Wilder as definitely 3rd on that list of fighters. And the potential for a rematch with Tyson Fury coming in February, the potential for, an Anthony Joshua fight, for a Dillian White fight, for even an Andy Ruiz fight if he beats Joshua in December, is too much. That's big money coming in. He could be looking at paychecks in excess of $9, $10, $11 million just on fighters' fees. And if he loses to Ortiz in a fight that many people are seeing as rudimentary, very basic, very, simple for Wilder, then his career could be over. I mean, there's no way that Ortiz is going to have a rematch if he beats Wilder. There's not that factor like we saw with Joshua and with Ruiz, where Ruiz was obviously going to take the rematch. Ortiz will take that belt and he'll run with it. And Wilder will be left standing on an island with maybe he won't even be able to fight Fury in February. Maybe Fury will just go for Anthony Joshua. He's got a potential to be left behind here, Wilder, if he loses this. So it's almost going to be career-defining for him. And if that gets to him, maybe mentally when it comes to fight night, he might not be there. He might just kind of shrink. But to me, I don't see him doing that. He's obviously he's a very confident guy. He's a very, very outlandish kind of guy. He doesn't seem like one that would get nervous. But I think what I'm trying to say is that he shouldn't get complacent with this. Yes, it's a fight he has to win, but he can't be thinking about a rematch with Fury yet. He can't be thinking about a potential fight with Joshua yet. He has to be concentrating on the opponent that's in front of him, because the opponent that's in front of them could very well finish him in more ways than one. Now, when I get onto the dangers for Luis Ortiz. Now, if you watch back that first fight, stamina played a huge role in that fight. Ortiz obviously had him on the ropes in the 7th, but once it got past the 9th round, he really started to fade in terms of stamina, and then obviously the 10th round, he just was a shadow of himself. The Wilder beat him all over the park. But will his stamina be up there? His physical stamina, will his mental stamina be up there to take, fight in those 10, 11, those 12 rounds with Wilder? With avoiding those power shots, avoiding that massive right hand. Will he be able to take that? If he does be able to take that, then there's a serious chance he could win this fight. It doesn't matter if he doesn't knock him out. It doesn't matter if it goes to points. It's a serious chance Ortiz wins this. However, the massive problem for Ortiz, this to me is number one in terms of, even if you look at problems for Wilder, it's number one problem for any of the fighters, is that I don't think he's got anywhere mentally to go from here. He gave his absolute all in that first fight. He threw the kitchen sink at Wilder. He outboxed him for the majority of the fight. He had him on the ropes, and he couldn't finish him off. In my opinion, that's the best I've seen Ortiz fight, and he couldn't finish him off. Now, 18 months on, he's 2 years older. Does he have that mental capability? Does he have that mental strength to even remotely box anywhere near like he did on that night? And can he combine that mental strength with that physical strength? I mean, the guy's 41. When have you ever seen 41-year-old guys completely outbox guys that are 7 years younger than him? I don't think I've seen that in a long time. I mean, we've seen it more recently with Joshua Klitschko. Now, a prime Vladimir Klitschko would slap a prime Anthony Joshua all over the ring. However, Klitschko fading, Joshua on the precipice of his prime, and Joshua beat him in the 11th round. Nobody's going to stand there and argue that Klitschko isn't as good as a boxer with boxing at Joshua. It was the fact that mentally he wasn't there, the fact that physically he wasn't there. We've also seen evidence of rematches with Wilder, whether I can't remember what his name is, but the first fight that ever went to a decision with Wilder, I think it was Staverns or something. They had a rematch 2 years later, and Wilder just destroyed him in the first round, made him look like a complete amateur. Will we see the same sort of thing from this Wilder Ortiz fight coming up? I don't know. There's something to take into account. Another major thing about it is the fact that you can't beat Wilder on points. We've seen the best boxer in the heavyweight division take Wilder to points, and he still didn't win. Fury completely outclassed Deontay Wilder in that fight, and he still didn't win. Fury is a much better technical boxer than Luis Ortiz. He also had the reach advantage, he had the height advantage, and he had the weight advantage, and he still didn't win against Wilder on points. What makes Luis Ortiz think that he can take this fight to the distance and win on the cards? Because it's evident that he can't. So he's going to have to go for the knockout. He's going to have to take those risks. He's going to have to spend a little bit too long in the pocket, trying to trade punches with Wilder, trying to force the issue, trying to land that one punch that could hurt Wilder. And remember, Wilder's got a chin. We've seen evidence of that. We've seen evidence of that in the first fight. We saw evidence of that in the Fury fight. Wilder can take a punch. But can Ortiz throw enough and throw cleanly enough to take the belt from Wilder? I personally don't think he can. I originally, before I went through all this analysis, I originally thought that Ortiz could take this. I thought that Ortiz was being overlooked very much, and that Wilder might just succumb to the pressure. However, the more and more I see it, the more dangers, the more bad points rack up for Ortiz compared to Wilder. I think if Ortiz is going to win this, he's going to have to box perfectly. He's going to have to box as if his life depended on it. And whether we can see that from a 41-year-old is just, it's very, very questionable. Now, obviously, I've slightly overrun from this. This is meant to only be 15 minutes, and we've just approached 15 minutes now. But I'm going to give my final predictions on how I think the fight's going to go. Obviously, I'm going to be watching. Hopefully, you guys are going to be watching as well. It's going to be a great fight. But I can see it going one of two ways. I can see it being an early KO for Wilder. I can see him coming out of the gate and just swinging for the fences and catching one of them, and Ortiz not being able to handle it and just being flattened in the first round. Or I can see it being a long, kind of technical fight, and Ortiz finishing it late, round 10, round 11. However, now this is a big however, that is only if Luis Ortiz is mentally there. That's only if he boxes completely perfectly, he boxes out of his skin. I'm not talking about boxing as well as he did in that first fight, because he did box extremely well as he could at that time. I'm talking about Ortiz having taken it to a new level this year. Has Ortiz found something inside of him to take his boxing ability to new heights, to be able to come over this absolute behemoth of a man in Deontay Wilder? Can he, one, outbox Wilder, two, just utterly humiliate Wilder in his own backyard? And I don't think he can, personally. I'd absolutely love it if Ortiz won. I think it'd be one of the upsets one of the greatest upsets in heavyweight history. However, do I see it happening? Not as much as I see that early KO happening. So, as I know, this is a long-winded prediction. But if I had to lay my entire life savings on it, I'd go Wilder round 4. I think Wilder's coming out the gate fast. Ortiz is going to weather the storm, but I think Wilder's going to be too much in the early rounds, and he's going to finish him off in round 4. It'll be interesting to see what your opinions are. I know that both Dan and Clive have good opinions about this fight. Dan also predicts an early knockout for Wilder, and I'm actually not sure what Clive predicts. It's a bit questionable. His signal's a bit questionable coming from the South China Sea. But yeah, we do apologize for the lack of communication on different social medias this week. We've been very busy as a whole, being serious. There will definitely be more podcasts coming. For the foreseeable future, it looks like it'll only be on a Saturday instead of being a Wednesday, Saturday schedule. We're all very busy at the moment, and it's just fitting this around, stuff that's more important, stuff like work, and obviously we're all taking college courses online, and it's coming up to finals and stuff, and we're kind of swamped in it at the moment. So it's actually a miracle of being able to record this for you guys now. But at the end of the day, we appreciate every single viewer. We appreciate every single listener that tunes into this podcast. I know a lot of times we talk shit, but we do actually genuinely care about this, and we have a lot of interest in it. You guys seem to be loving the boxing content at the moment, and we're going to continue that. Following this fight, we're going to continue that. We'll start ramping up the AJ Ruiz research and the AJ Ruiz videos. There'll be more of those coming, as well as general degeneracy. You guys haven't really experienced a proper Degenerates podcast yet, and trust me, that's coming. You just might have to wait for a little bit longer than originally planned. But anyway, it's been Big Breaks at Dave here for the Degenerates podcast. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Comment down below your predictions. Comment down below how you think the fight's going to go. There won't be a live stream coming for this fight, but we will plan to do live streams in the future. And yeah, see you guys later.